7 assists and 3 turnovers.
Right? In 7 games.
That's a 22-to-1 turnover ratio. I mean, assist-turnover ratio. It's insane. Yo, I think Chris Paul is super underrated. And I think it's because he's an asshole.
You can relate.
Everything's set over here if you guys are ready.
We're ready.
All right. So we just play the music straight through?
The intro, yeah. The intro straight through. And then, Lawrence, you say hi, okay? And then, remember, we haven't been here in quite some time.
I got you.
All right, here we go.
Thanks, man.
I'm Lawrence.
And I'm Erin, and this is...
Beyond the Journal.
Wow, every time?
Every time.
Wow. Okay, so this is Beyond... Uh-oh. What happened? It cut out?
I don't know. We'll do take 2.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Did you do something when you touched that?
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't you put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
Take 2.
I'm Lawrence.
And I'm Erin, and this is...
Beyond the Journal.
Wow, every time?
Every time.
Wow. Okay, so this is Beyond the Journal, and here we talk about New York City basketball, community, culture, love, life.
Everything from the government to the grocery store.
That's right, and there's only one place you can hear it.
Beyond the Journal.
Wow, really?
I like that one better.
Okay, can we just start the show, please?
Welcome back, Beyond the Journal listeners. I'm your co-host, Lawrence. And there's someone else in the room.
I thought you were going to say co-host with the most.
Oh, with the mo-host?
Yeah,
Can you just introduce yourself, please?
Hi.
It's a terrible way to start.
Everyone knows my name. I don't think I need to say my name.
All right.
Yeah.
So, easy for us to say we missed you all. We should be doing shows every night at this point. Is that too much?
Really?
Well, I mean, that's
I could not do a show every night with you.
Oh, that's why.
That's why.
That's why.
I mean, there's enough content to do a show every night. I just don't know if I could handle you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Erin cannot keep up with Lawrence. So, what's in the news?
Only you.
Can we start with the NBA?
Go New York, go New York, go. Go New York, go New York, go.
Did that just happen? Wow.
I'm not even a Knicks fan, and I know the Knicks chant.
Why are you so excited about the Knicks?
I am excited for them. It feels good.
What feels good?
It feels good.
What, that they won a game?
Yeah, no, they won 8. They won 8 in a row. 8 in a row. And Stephen A. put out a video on IG today that said he was so excited. He had some great news to share. And he said, the Knicks are good. He said, not okay, not all right. They're good. They're good. So the Knicks are, I know you hate it. And you're not, I know you're not
I'm just
gonna
listening.
sing their praises. I get it. But listen, we had this conversation. They're playing team ball. I like to see it. I like team ball.
I like team ball as well. And for the record, the way they're playing is the exact way I said they should play. For the record. And it's on record. We have footage.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway,
So
Randle is
You're welcome.
on fire, and he is playing amazingly, but he has an entire supporting cast. It's not like he's, of course he's going off, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But they are really playing team ball, and I love that. I love to see that. That's exciting. And I just feel like the Knicks and of course the Knicks fans, man, they've been waiting for this forever. Come on. I got to feel good. And honestly, I always root for the underdog. I love to see the underdog come up. And I mean, okay.
The Bulls are underdogs.
Okay, listen. The Bulls have Michael Jordan. They're like done forever.
Wow.
Whatever. If they win, it's fine. But they had Jordan. I don't even want to talk about that.
This is what happens when you're too good at your job. I get it.
Okay,
no, but
anyway.
I will say this though. I think Randle is the type of player that the New York Knicks need. I think he reminds me of the Knicks in the 90s. You know, the bruisers, the hustlers, the teamwork. They were the Knicks in the 90s, they were teams.
Yeah.
You know, and now seeing the way the Knicks are playing now, it reminds me of that time.
Yeah.
But I do have one question because I know we're not going to spend all show on this. Lord knows, I hope we're not spending all show on the Knicks.
Not.
Does it matter if they don't go far in the playoffs?
Yes, it matters.
No, allow it. What I mean is, does all of the hoopla, all of the crowd cheering, all of the momentum, does it all go away if they don't go far? Or do Knicks fans wake up and stay up now that they've got this team chemistry?
Yeah, no, they wake up and stay up for sure. They're diehard. Come on, you know Knicks
it's a
fans.
tough place.
They are diehard.
New York's tough, man.
It is, but they're diehard, and they're not going to turn their backs on them. If anything, they'll just get excited for next season. I mean, isn't that what they always do?
I was just about to say, isn't next year always the next year?
But they're going to do that. And honestly, when the king says the league is simply better off when the Knicks are winning, I mean, come on. When LeBron goes out of his way to tweet that, come on.
So what else? What else are we talking? Like,
come on, why are you time out?
What does that mean?
Time out.
What does that mean?
Okay, time
LeBron
out. You're
said it.
such a hater. Time out. I need to know something.
Uh-huh.
Why do you hate them so much?
The New York Knicks are the most. Well, first of all, I've had a front row seat to how disappointing they've been as a team. I've watched Knicks fans like die and choke on their words every year since I was like 2. My dad was a Knicks fan, and I just used to laugh at him like, dude, give it up. Give it up.
Isn't there something to be said, though, for fans who just, they're ride or die? I respect that.
Yeah, it's just that when they're up, Knicks fans go crazy. I think the only people worse than Knicks fans are Lakers fans. Because Lakers fans are super pompous about it. Knicks fans are just like, yeah, we won 2 in a row. This championship's coming, babe. Shut up. Shut up. Enough.
Come on, that's just cruel. Allow them their moment. They may only get 8 games in a row. Relax. Why do you have to be such a hater? I don't understand. Can't we just give them their moment in the spotlight? Let them have some fun. They don't get a lot of fun. They haven't had a lot of fun. There are Knicks fans who have been born into being a Knicks fan who haven't seen the Knicks win. Come on. If they wanted to have a moment for the 8-game win streak, chill out, man. Chill out. Let him run with it.
I think the fact that you're pleading with me is absolutely hilarious, and I will leave them alone.
Okay, so anyway, we did a poll on Instagram stories.
Talk about the poll.
And we asked which New York team, well, I just kind of answered it. Sorry, whoops, slip up. Which New York team are you more excited about, the Knicks or the Nets? 82% are more excited for the Knicks. 18% for the Nets.
I understand. I think it's hard to get excited for a Nets team that has not been at full strength, first of all. Secondly, their chemistry is not there yet. I do have the question for you as well as America. Are we still excited about the league in general, being that there are always so many injuries? You know, you tune in and you see 5 guys who don't start on a team. Does that ruin it for you? I'll be honest with you. It's turned me off. And I'm not saying that guys shouldn't be injured. I'm not saying that. But I am saying the entertainment value of it for me has been lowered. It has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, first of all, hold on. Just give me 2 seconds with the poll. I'm all about being more excited for the Knicks than the Nets. Again, I just said underdog. It's easy to cheer for Kyrie, Harden, KD, Blake. I mean, come on. That's just a no-brainer. And the Knicks never win. So I'm cheering for the Knicks, and I'm not a Knicks fan.
All right.
I want to see the Knicks win. So then, to your point, that's boring.
Yeah.
And honestly, it gets annoying. Stephen A. has been harshly criticized recently for going off about load management and these superstars getting hurt, or he goes off on Kyrie. Because I guess Kyrie now is Muslim, so he took games off for the holiday, but he hadn't announced that. So no one really knew why Kyrie wasn't playing. And so he went off and he was like, you have this multi-million-dollar contract. People are buying tickets to see you play or watching games to see you play. And you just like decide when you show up, when you don't show up, whatever. So I'm just kind of over that. And I understand, listen, you know, if you listen to the show, you know, Kyrie is like my spirit, like soulmate. I love him and I think he's misunderstood. And I also kind of like the boundaries he set up for himself. And he's kind of like, I really don't care what you think. And I get it. It's your job to talk about me on TV. So go right ahead and do that. But I don't owe you any explanation. Yeah. I like it. I get it. But it's also annoying because you kind of have to walk a fine line between your contract and your fans and showing up for your team and your teammates. And then also, you know, the public, but then also, you know, your beliefs and what you're working on in your life. I think, though, at the end of the day, if your teammates in your locker room are all in a good space, you can't really worry about what the fans and the haters and the commentators are saying. So I get that.
I think I liken it to, or I don't liken it to this. I think of an analogy like I'm a teacher, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say my religious values would have me home a day or two a week, however long. Mm-hmm. Communication should be had, right? Not just with my boss, but also with my coworkers who will have to pitch in my absence. Right. Now, the question we are asking, or the question we're posing here is, should the students be notified as to why I'm absent? Should the fans be notified as to why Kyrie's absent? Because when he shows up to put on a show. And for all intents and purposes, when you're a teacher, you're on a stage, right? Mm-hmm. So now I'm asking myself, should the students know? Now, in my situation, I have relationships. You know, I build relationships with students. This is like the key strength. But am I building a relationship with these fans? Not necessarily, right? So I throw that question out there. I don't think either of us has the answer yet.
Well, I think the example that you're giving, I get what you're saying, but I think if you have a personal relationship with someone, then yes, an explanation is not always necessary, but it's
courteous.
But it's courteous, and it also it contributes to the relationship building, mm-hmm. right? So you form communication and trust and all of those things, all very important. You're not doing that one-on-one with fans. What's important to Kyrie is the locker room and the guys that he plays with. You have to have chemistry. You have to be able to show up. And if those guys are happy, then that's really what matters at the end of the day, because you're here to win games, right? So again, I circle back to my point of, I kind of like the boundaries he's setting up for himself, and I kind of like that he's still sticking to it even through the harsh criticism. I mean, he said it. He's like, I really don't care what you think, and I really don't owe you an explanation. Mm-hmm. And I kind of get that because, you know, we've talked about this a lot. Where do we draw the line?
Yep. I do think that fans in entertainment they have way too much access.
But let me ask you this.
Okay.
So Kyrie seems to be somewhat, you know, emotional, temperamental, whatever. Let's compare him to like LeBron. LeBron is showing up every single game unless he's hurt. What? Why do you look at me like that?
Because I avoided this. Because in my head, I said to myself, what would LeBron say? And then I said to myself, who cares what LeBron says?
I know, but for argument's sake, I'm asking because they're two different. They're superstar, best in the league, you know, at what they do. And they handle it very differently.
Why LeBron and why not KD? Right?
Okay, KD too.
Because I think, and the reason I do this is because I think we all know, like, LeBron's like Captain America of the league. He can technically do no wrong.
He's like the Disney
I think people like him more than they like Tom Brady. Think about that, right? He's the poster child. So,
but why does he always have to be so perfect? Why does he do that?
He's been trained to do just what he's doing. He's been trained. All throughout his high school year, his high school years, they prepared him for this. Mm-hmm. He's been prepared. He's been trained. And I love the way he uses his platform. Don't get me wrong. He uses his platform the right way.
Yes.
But I don't like it when we look to compare him because it's like he's in a class by himself.
Okay, fine. Then like you said, KD isn't. Now, KD is emotional. He gets all up in his feelings and acts crazy, like the whole Rappaport thing. But I
don't think so. I don't like that you're saying emotional. I think because and here's why, right? I think what is happening is people are becoming more expressive and they're holding others accountable for how they show up when they're being expressive. I think that's what it is. For example, KD speaking back to Michael Rappaport, he wasn't just being emotional. He was responding back to what Rappaport was saying.
He didn't have to respond like that.
He didn't have to. He chose to. He also didn't have to get picked at. Think about that. Think about that. If you slap me and I punch you, you're really going to complain that I punched you? You didn't have to slap me. So it's up to me how I respond once you pick at me.
Yes, but
Or else the rules of self-defense don't apply in America. Think about that.
No.
Think about that.
No. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but when all eyes are on you, shout out Tupac. When all eyes are on you, and that's how. Oh, really?
I gotta throw up the West Side. Sorry.
Oh wow, really? Oh, good to know. Okay, is that? Okay,
I used to work on the West Side of Harlem.
I'm not even going there. We're not even
No?
doing that. I can't
Nothing?
believe you just did that.
Sorry.
I
sorry.
literally can't believe you just did that. Wow. Okay. Now I completely lost my train of thought. Oh, when all eyes are on you, and come on now, someone can poke you. That doesn't mean you punch them back. I don't know. I guess I feel like, again, it's somewhat of a double standard. I want him to be
There you
able to
go.
express himself.
There you
Yes,
go.
I do. But
Thank
I
you.
also sometimes, and I will say, and I advocate for people like this, he was human in a human moment. And just because you're a superstar doesn't excuse you from being a human being and having a human moment.
Are you sure?
Well,
Because
no,
you have
for
to
me,
remember,
for
right,
me.
But you have to remember, we live in a capitalist society, right?
Right.
And so
I get
everything
that.
is about what your value is in dollars. And now, if you are in the spotlight and you're on stage and you do something that is not pleasing to the public, you lower your stock and your value, right? And so typically people act accordingly because they're always concerned about their stock and their value. But what if I've got it?
Yeah,
and I
he
don't
already-
need to worry about that.
He doesn't
right?
care. I don't
And-
even think he was fined, was he?
No, and
I don't
then
think so.
well, actually, he was fine. I'm sorry.
Was he?
He was.
I didn't.
But then the flip side of
don't
it
know.
is because he's a performer
Mm-hmm.
and an entertainer, right? If we were talking about Wall Street guys, corporate guys, they get away with murder with the way they treat people and they speak to people for decades, right?
Oh yeah.
That doesn't get called to the carpet.
No, because they're not celebrities.
And so
No one cares.
What I'm saying to you is the way that the celebrities are held accountable is not only foolish, it's ridiculous. And the reason it's foolish is because we are constantly expecting people with better talents to have better character. The two are not synonymous, nor are they not Siamese twins. They don't come
course.
together, right?
Of course.
And so that expectation is a farce. Like, you don't
I
allow
get
people
it.
to be human when you hold them to such high regards like that.
I totally get it, but where's your stance on that then as like a parent? And
So, and the reason I bring this up is because I've often been in this position.
mm-hmm.
I'm very sharp with my tongue, and I'm also quick to. I'm not anymore. I'm quick to be aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've been known to be the aggressor in situations. If I'm arguing with someone and someone is saying something I don't like, or we're yelling at each other, I'm quick to say, "Why are we still talking?" Right? And I typically
I know.
So
I've been
you-
there, done that.
right. So I typically get looked at as a bad guy or something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
But if you pay attention to me, I don't bother people. And then when they bother me, I bother you.
You bother me.
I bother you.
You totally
You
bother
deserve
me.
it. But
I do not.
But when people bother me and I respond, it is often seen as something's wrong with me, or I'm emotional, or I'm sensitive, or I'm temperamental.
Well, your tone
or-
just like switches so quick, and you are like,
So you would like it that people would mess with me, right? And then I would transition slowly so that they could understand the transition. So the
Yes,
reason I
in
say this
certain-
is
in-
because this is how people have carried it when I've been in these situations.
it depends on the relationship, and it depends on the gravity of what you're discussing. I feel like there's appropriate like levels of angriness or whatever, but
Says whom?
listen,
That's important. Says whom?
says it, which is dictated by the relationship and the relationship you have. It's totally different when you're speaking to a stranger versus someone you've known since childhood versus someone you've known for 2 weeks versus someone you're married to versus, we treat people accordingly and, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
So I get what you're saying.
You can't dictate my response.
You're right.
You can't
You're
regulate it, dictate it. You can't do anything
right.
with my response, especially if you initiated the interaction.
Well, here's what I can do with your response. I can choose how I want to receive it and react to it.
Facts. But don't judge my response.
Right.
Right?
No, really. And I think that's the key to it all. And again, goes all back to like the whole mindfulness thing that I never stop talking about anymore. But truly, it's that when you switch your tone or you're angry or you respond in a certain way, it triggers people's egos or trauma, and they respond based on preconditioned, responses or experiences. Mm-hmm. So it's really about awareness and just going, hey, that's his thing right now that he's going through. I'm gonna take it, however I want to see it or however I want to take it, and I'm just not gonna let that upset me. It's very, whatever. Anyway, we could talk about that for 17,000 hours.
You're very flower child right now.
Yeah, I know.
Very, very flower child.
Listen, I'm getting deeper into it too. Watch out.
Next
thing you know, I'm gonna be doing this podcast from like a commune, like on a beach somewhere,
sitting cross-legged.
Yeah. Exactly. Don't laugh. It could happen.
It's possible. So something you wrote in the note that I definitely have to just shout out. Mm-hmm. Is this for Chris Paul? 67 assists and 3 turnovers in 7 games.
Stupid.
That's a 22-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. I've never seen anything like that. That's amazing. Stupid. And for some reason he does not get I still don't think he gets as much clout as he deserves. I don't.
Yeah,
I really don't.
He doesn't. But he's doing a great job right now, and that's going to come through. Let's see what they do. I mean,
he's on his last 4 teams. He has improved their winning percentage dramatically.
I saw that. Yeah,
dramatically.
Every place that he's hopped around to,
and he's not been in great situations.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well,
shout out CP.
Yeah. Speaking of point guards, though.
Let's talk about it. Curry. Hey, but before we jump into his stats and Lawrence's take on Curry, I just want to give a shout out to Official NBA Buzz. You can follow them on IG. It's where I get all of my NBA info. And Mikey is amazing. I love this kid. As a matter of fact, I want to talk to you about it because I want to have him on the show about the playoffs. His story is really awesome. I'll tell you about it after.
Well, now that I'm on the spot.
I'll tell you about it after because I just had a Zoom call with him the other day. Shout out Mikey. But seriously, go follow this account if you don't, because the tidbits of NBA news that he flashes all day long. And he's in college, by the way.
Wow.
Started it when he was 12.
What?
Yeah, now got picked up and has a podcast on ESPN because of it. You don't even know.
Wow.
You don't even know. He's awesome. The kid's awesome. So anyway, shout out to Mikey. Please go follow the account. And literally where I get my info for the note is Official NBA Buzz. That almost sounds like a commercial, and I promise I'm not sponsored by them. I just like Mikey, and I'm proud of him. So, okay, let's keep it moving on to Curry.
All right.
But Mike, if you want to sponsor us, that's cool too. Okay, anyway, keep going.
So I've been checking Curry out recently, specifically a game this past week where he was playing against Philly. And so I'm a firm believer in the inside-out game. I truly believe that the basketball game is played better when your initial target is high percentage shots, which are in the paint. So when we see these teams that are built around shooters, I often say to myself, that's not a winning strategy, right? You're not going to build a team around Kyle Korver or Steve Kerr when he was younger. It's not going to happen, right? They're just pure shooters.
Yeah.
But with Steph Curry,
because you said this before, you would not build a franchise around Curry.
Listen. I think I can only say this about Steph Curry. Mm-hmm. I don't care where he shoots from behind the line. I think it's a high percentage shot. Mm-hmm. And I've never said that about any shooter. And I've known some great shooters. I've watched great shooters. Mm-hmm. I've never seen the shot be so consistent from so far away in so many different situations? Off the dribble, off the screen, pin down screen, V cut, like everything he does, he still comes home to his home base and he's in his shot no matter what.
Even when he's off balance, even when he's guarded, even when he has no vision, he still hits the shot. I don't understand. He's a freak of nature. I don't know, though, in your defense, honestly, I don't know that it would make sense to build a franchise around a shooter unless it's Steph Curry. I mean, someone else has huge shoes to fill. But let's also, like, Curry's, on a roll right now. Curry has had downtimes too. There have been times, right, of course. So I'm just saying, like, we're seeing this now, and he's on an incredible run right now. Incredible run.
But
he was annoyed. I saw his post-game interview. He had 49 points, and he was so annoyed that he missed that free throw.
I saw it.
And he wanted the 50, and she was
funny.
asking him afterwards.
Wait. I'm sorry, but it was one of the funniest moments that I don't think anybody else captured. Steph Curry grabs a rebound. He has 48. He's getting ready to come out of the game. He grabs a rebound, and he gets poked in the eye. And his teammates, and he's right by the bench, his teammates get so hyped. They're like, yeah, 50 coming up.
Oh, no.
Mad hype. And Steph's got a finger poked in his eye, red eye,
see.
and he's laughing his behind off.
Yeah.
Because it's hilarious of how excited they are.
Yeah.
And then he gets to the line and misses the first free throw.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, that's 49, huh?
You know what, though? That just means he has to do it again. And he will.
Hopefully he'll show up to my training camp.
But, I mean, let's
and
just
he'll
see.
make free
And
throws.
this was 5 days ago, but a post on ESPN. I mean, he had 38 points, 8 threes, 53 points, 10 threes, 42 points, 11 threes, 33 points, 4 threes, 47 points, 11 threes. And they lost that game. But what?
You know what's funny about these stats? I was looking at them, and I thought those were assists because I was like 47 and 11, 33 and 4. Those are the threes he makes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
11 threes.
I'm so glad I didn't make it to the NBA. All right. Because I would have to guard that guy. So I wanna let's talk NCAA.
Okay, quickly. We can talk about it quickly.
Yeah, quickly. The transfer rule.
Yeah, so they changed the transfer rule. So before, when you transferred, you had to sit for a season.
Mm-hmm.
Then COVID happened, and then they waived that, right? Mm-hmm. But now they're going to stick with it. So the first time you transfer, you do not have to sit if it's the first time. Mm-hmm. So you can play automatically, which is a big deal because it deterred a lot of kids from transferring.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't want to sit out. So now that you can transfer, and because of COVID, the transfer portal is blowing up.
How many?
And we're talking about, we're not even talking, so I think that they said there's over 1,000 kids in the transfer portal right now, right? Wow. But that changes every single day. Like the coaches said, we don't even check it daily. We check it, we just sit and hit refresh on the browser. That's how many kids are coming and going. And he said, and this is like a totally different thing than you've ever seen before. You have Duke, Kentucky, UNC, KU, all of these kids are in the portal.
It's weird.
It's really weird. But, because of COVID, the athletes could not go to on-campus visits, and they couldn't have visits in person with coaches. And a lot of times that's really necessary to make sure you're in the right environment and the right strategy for your game and also your future, as well as the schools. So that has, encouraged kids to transfer. There's a lot of factors that are playing into it, but I really do think that this is going to impact the sport big time.
Yeah, I think it's going to turn into a free agency deal, and I think it also opens the door to a lot of illegal activity with players going places for the sake of a season championship or for the sake of joining their friends or the sake of gaining money.
Kind of like LeBron or KD, like when they win a ring, they just decide to transfer to a different team. Yep. Yeah, no, and it's going to be interesting to see how it does affect the game. And one coach, in one of the articles I read, the coach said, you're going to have to stop what he believes is you'll stop cheering for particular players because you're not going to have those players 4 years. You're going to just be cheering for your school. It's going to be a school-based fan versus, having those. So, like, Kansas, like Frank Mason, Devontae Graham, those guys stuck it out. Those guys were transfers, actually. They came in.
You're not gonna have too many 4-year guys that are stars anymore. I think your guys are either going to the league or they're gonna try their chances
one and done
at professional leagues around the world,
right.
or there are other leagues popping up. There's so many reasons for a kid to not stay 4 years. Plus, that 4-year education is now starting to look like it's much more for the guys who used basketball just to get to college. Right. And so now that I've used basketball to get to college, I'll get this free education. I'll take my education and I'll go from there. But those who are going there, and these are the guys that are typically going to be highly sought out in the transfer portal, right? So these guys, it's gonna be like watching the NBA offseason, it feels.
Yeah.
So,
but let's not forget how many people actually make it in the league, and let's not forget all of the circumstances that have to be in alignment for you to make it to the league. So, while we can say all of this about the NCAA and transferring and this and that, there's still, I want to make it clear that even not everybody can be in the NBA, and getting a good education and playing solid college ball is like a really great thing.
That's my goal for my sons, specifically the twins, and I don't even know if, like I said before, I don't even know if Lyric is long for the game of basketball, but I would genuinely appreciate it if they could pay their way through school, through basketball.
Sure.
You know, I've got 3 sons. That could be 3 scholarships at 3
right.
different schools. That's my goal. Now, if one of them goes on to do something else, that'll be a big surprise for me. That'll be awesome. I just want them to get an education.
Yeah, that's right? And so, really that's what it's about. And it doesn't have to be D1. I'm good with D3. And as a matter of fact, watching Last Chance U, which I loved, about East LA Community College, the JUCO program, that's hardcore. And those kids were transfers because they couldn't cut it at Penn State. D1 guys are showing up there. And listen, you don't have the same amount of money and resources that these other colleges do, but this is tough ball. Like, if you get an opportunity to play and get your college paid for, please do. Just please do. I mean, and yes, education's important. You get that degree, but there's so many other things that are important that you learn in this entire process that are helpful in life. So while I want to, I just want to show both sides of the conversation, because it is important that there are athletes that really are not necessarily going to make the league, but it's amazing that you can still go to college and play. Right. And so even the odds of that are so slim. D1 is slim.
So speaking of that, it has been a really emotional week.
Yes.
In America.
Yes.
In our community as well. And definitely in my own heart. And recently our basketball community lost another young man.
Yeah, really, really sad last night. So, Terrence Clark, he was at the University of Kentucky, and he left, and he just announced that he had signed with Clutch Sports, and he was entering the draft, and he was definitely going to be drafted, and he was in a car accident and passed away at the age of 19, and the league, like everyone in the league was responding, and even he played at the Slam Classic this past summer at Dykeman, and he played at Millbank actually, and he's originally from Boston but had played at Millbank, and had a relationship with Spicy and Coach Rose, and a lot of kids within the New York City community were close with him. It's just so sad. It was heartbreaking. I mean, everyone tweet Bronny, LeBron, he was close with Donovan Mitchell, Ja, like everybody. So it's really, really sad. He had such a bright future, gone way too soon. So we're sending our thoughts, prayers, condolences, and lots of love to his family and friends and the entire basketball community. It's interesting to see how close-knit it really is across the country. So So yeah, that was tough last night.
And sadly, as we're mourning his death,
There's many others.
there's so much more. Like I'm just looking at the list of things that we have on the docket. Do you mind if I just read some of the things off the list?
Go for it.
Derek Chauvin was finally found guilty, right? The same day, a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old girl, in Columbus, Ohio, is murdered by the police because she was handling a knife and approaching another young lady with the knife raised. And she was murdered in front of her family and in front of her home. In addition, Anthony Thomas Jr. Of Knoxville, Austin East Magnet School was a 17-year-old boy shot and killed in a school bathroom, after struggling with the officers. Andrew Brown was shot and killed by police after trying to flee in the car. They fired shots into the vehicle. I'm sorry. I have to be honest. So I'm really emotional. I've been extremely emotional today. I shed tears before the show. I shed tears at my desk earlier today watching the Anthony Thomas shooting. And there will be those who say that the young lady in Ohio that was murdered, that was a justified murder by the police. There will be those that say that because she had a knife, and there will be those that say Anthony Thomas Jr. There was a justified shooting. It was self-defense because he had a firearm. Here's my issue. Black people don't make up enough of the population to actually lead the statistics of those murdered by police, but they do. In addition, and it's ironic that we're talking about a car crash killing another superstar in our basketball community, because car crashes are a very common death in the country, and that's not the only death that black people have to be fearful of. The typical answer from those who are ignorant to the black situation and the black circumstances in this country, historically and in present times, is that look at those who have made it out. You have to understand the reason why we celebrate those who make it out of these tough situations in these black communities is because it's difficult. Many of these people who make it out of these communities and turn into superstars or turn into successful people are miracles. In my family, I'm considered a miracle. I went straight to college out of high school. Straight out of college, I got a job. I've been gainfully employed since I was 22 years old. I'm now 38. I'm a miracle. And here I sit trying to raise 3 sons to be miracles and to survive. And that weighs heavy on my heart every time I read or watch a video where another black child is either imprisoned, gunned down, or assaulted. I am so sick and tired of people talking to me about statistics as though statistics don't have to be extreme before we pay them attention. That one death means nothing unless it's 1,000 deaths. And so people will speak to me and say things as though it's okay that people got murdered, or it's okay that people are being beaten up because of who they are, where they're from, or what. I don't think anyone's death is justifiable at the hands of another human being. I will say that. I will say that self-defense is a fear-triggered reaction that we cannot ourselves help. But when you have been trained in the art of violence and aggression like our police officers, we expect better. We expect more competence. And unfortunately, the police have only been trained to be the aggressors and to escalate situations and to force people to be fearful of them. They project their fear onto people, and they treat regular citizens as though they're career criminals. It is not resisting arrest if I defend myself when you are punching me in the face. It is not resisting arrest if you slam me on my face and I try to brace myself so I can protect my face. And if it is resisting arrest, then what do you call it when you pull your gun and you shoot someone because you're fearful of your life? Why do you get absolved Why are you not able to be held accountable? Because you've been trained. And so I say all of this to say, I understand that Ms. Bryant had a knife in her hand. I understand that there was a gun in the young man's hoodie who was murdered by the police officers. I understand that another person was fleeing in his vehicle before he was murdered. I understand all of this. What I don't understand is, why haven't you gotten better at your job? If you were going to tell me that police officers are stuck in positions where they have to fear for their lives and they have to deal in dangerous situations on a regular basis, why haven't you gotten better at your job? And the last thing I will say is, stop sending police officers who have been trained to murder, maim, and aggressively harm and apprehend people to mental health issues. They are not equipped to deal with it, nor do they have the patience. I'm sorry, I just had to get that out of my system.
No, I'm glad that you did. And I hope that helped in some way yourself, but also anyone who's listening. But I'd like to say something, a point to one of the things you just said. Why aren't you better at your job? Unfortunately, they prove in multiple situations with interactions with white children and white men that they are better at their job. So it's not that they can't be better at their job. It's a choice, because there have been right after the murder in Minnesota, there was a white man in a pickup truck who had a weapon, and the police officer was actually on the truck. And there were police cars surrounding him, and he was spinning in circles, and the guy was hanging on, and not one shot was fired.
Nope.
Not one.
Nope.
So explain that to me. So it's not, I understand what you're saying. Yes, you need to be better at your job. I get it. But you need to be better at your job when black and brown folks are involved. Not when the white, because it's just, it doesn't add up. The statistics just don't add up.
Which leads me to my next point. I don't know that completely abolishing the police is the answer. I do know reform is the answer. I do know defunding the police. And when I say defund the police, I don't mean make them work for free. That's not what that means.
No.
We defunded education a long time ago, okay? So we should defund the police, and we should use some of the money that has been overspent in the police departments to create auxiliary departments that can handle situations that don't require aggression.
Right.
That's one.
Mental
Number two,
health counselors
right,
and things of that nature that can respond to domestic abuse.
right?
And like the children fighting, things like that. This is not something that 5 or 6 grown men need to show up and just start firing bullets for what?
Children riding bicycles in the street. We don't need these type of aggressive people showing
ridiculous.
up. In addition, the other thing that we have too much of that started way back when, we have too many strangers policing neighborhoods.
Right.
The neighborhoods you are policing as police officers, these people should not be strangers to you.
Right.
Nor should you be strangers to them.
So remember one of the shows that I can't remember what town it was in Jersey. I don't know. Was it Newark? I don't know. A town in Jersey, remember?
It was Camden, wasn't it?
Okay, right. And remember, the officers were very well liked, and there were the crime rates were low, the incidents were low with gun violence and things like that, because they knew each other, and they would have cookouts and barbecues and events, and they would get to know each other, and so there was a level of respect and community that was built. And that's the other thing. I mean, you know, we need to go deeper into that. It's just, listen, there's no excuse for this, the thing about the whole trial and him being found guilty on all 3 counts, I was sick in my stomach and I was holding my breath, and it was awful, because the worst part about that entire scenario was not even being sure, watching him literally murder someone on video and questioning if the jury was going to do the right thing.
And
that's America.
That's America, right?
And that's what scares me.
Because here I sit, getting ready to celebrate that this man went to jail for murdering someone, and there were witnesses there. and I'm sitting here celebrating it
No.
instead of just saying, "Oh, okay, that's
Right.
supposed to happen."
Right. And
Right?
that's a problem. And that is a problem. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it shouldn't have even been a celebration. But the one reason why it felt good is finally some freaking accountability. Like, there needs to be more consequences for actions in all of these situations so people start waking up. Like, how could you seriously right now? That was national news. It was on every TV station, radio station, everywhere. And then you show up for a call, and this is what you think is an appropriate action for a 16-year-old girl. She's a baby. What are you doing?
And so you fire off
four shots in her chest. Like, you can't
in
even
quick
fire something
succession.
into the air. You can't even. And why are we shooting to kill babies? Why aren't we disarming them? I just don't understand. There's so many questions, and I just don't.
The police have not only been trained in aggression, they've also been trained to protect property owners, businesses, business owners.
Over humans.
I need everyone to understand that your being human does not warrant the police treating you fairly in their eyes.
Yeah.
Your being worth something of value does not warrant the police seeing you as equal in their eyes. It is your status in this capitalist society that will have you treated and have you in better standing when you deal with the police. And it is very difficult for me to have some of these conversations with people who constantly bring up those successful black people or those successful incidents where black people just take the abuse and keep it moving. Here's the biggest problem. Well, not the biggest problem.
White people.
It's not just white people.
No. I'm kidding, but I'm not at all.
So it's a big problem is this.
Yes.
One, no one wants to talk about the fact that black people have been set up to fail in this country.
Yeah.
No one wants to talk about the fact that the laws were not created to make black people
Equally.
successful or fair or equal.
Yeah.
No one wants to talk about the fact that the police, the institution of the police, was founded upon slave patrols.
Mm-hmm.
Their job was to recover lost property. And when we say lost property, we're talking about runaway slaves.
Right.
If they did not produce papers, if they were not walking with a lantern that would show their face, if there were 3 or more blacks gathered in an area, if black people tried to get married, if black people wanted to have a funeral during night, all of these laws were made to preserve an elite society. That's it.
Yeah.
And so people don't want to have this discussion, and people want to act like one day everything just changed. But it didn't
'cause
change.
Didn't we have the civil rights?
Oh, because civil
movement,
rights.
Right?
Speaking
Didn't that
of-
happen?
What's this guy's name? Was it Gutman? What's
yeah,
his name?
so I was just going to say, so because we had...
Andrew Gutman.
So it all went away, right? Isn't it all better now?
This guy writes a letter at the Brearley School, a private school. He writes a letter to the other parents and the school claiming that anti-racist curriculums are divisive and they themselves are racist, and that the systemic racism problem has been solved.
In
And
the
it was
60s.
solved in the 60s because
Right.
we no longer have separated lunch counters and separated schools. So
I
that's
mean-
all racism ever was,
Wow.
according to him. And since
Wow.
that's already out of the window, these little pockets of racism are not his problem, nor are they his daughter's problem. And he also adds, everybody's been made fun of at school. What's the big deal? What?
He's so clueless. It's scary.
And yet he acts as though he's an authority with a background in history.
Right. However, I would like to say, shout out to Brearley administration though for absolutely standing up and saying we do not agree with him. So just because there are a lot of people who do go to Brearley who do not agree with him. So there are two sides to it, but the fact that he was so bold in not only sending his letter to the school, he sent it to every student, every parent. He took it upon himself to do that. And he withdrew his daughter, which I would be, if I was Brearley, I'd be thrilled. I'd be like, thank you. You just made it a lot easier for us.
Now we
I
don't.
didn't have to kick you out.
Right.
So whatever.
Can I just say though
Yeah.
that what he brings up it bothers me because of this. I talk about the black experience. I've been a very fortunate, very successful black man to be gainfully employed for so long, to be alive for so long, to be able to raise my own children for so long, and to have attended such prestigious schools like the Cate School and the College of Worcester and Loomis Chaffee. I've been so fortunate, right? And yet and still, I've dealt with systemic racism. I've dealt with racism in my face. So now I want people to understand that the black experience is a scary one. Why? Because despite the fact that I'm highly educated, right, I've still been harassed by the police. I still slam my foot on the brake when I see the cops, right? In addition, I not only have to be fearful of the police, I have to be fearful of other black people sometimes because we're all so desperate, not just to express ourselves, but to survive, that we actually think that we are in each other's way. We also have to fear poverty because it is harder to break the seal and find your way into the capitalist society, the upper echelon of the capitalist society. We also have to be fearful of the fear that people have for us because they project that fear onto us. We have to be fearful of the law. We have to be fearful of the government because it seems like no one is out for us. And then when people start doing things like teaching anti-racist curriculums, we're supposed to stop that momentum from happening because we're not only holding people accountable, we make them feel guilty. So we're supposed to take this abuse, take these circumstances, take these situations, and much like a suspect being apprehended by a police officer, take the hits to the face, to the stomach, and not move. Because if we do, it's called resisting arrest. But it's called resisting arrest because we make the officer fearful. So when we bring up this anti-racist curriculum, we make other people uncomfortable. And so we shouldn't do it. Everything we do to try to come up that isn't dictated by outside of our communities is inappropriate, it's dangerous, it's unsafe, it causes fear. It's ridiculous. It is like trying to breathe while someone is sitting atop the pillow on my face.
Right. So
or a knee on my neck.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So this is a little crazy. Well, for one, you are challenging everything that someone has held closely and dear to them their entire lives, right? So any type of change is fearful, but especially this type of change, right? Because it's also asking people to educate themselves and really step outside of their comfort zone, and by doing that, threaten their entire kind of way of life and the life that they've built for themselves. So it's a huge obstacle and a huge challenge. But I can't help but to think of this, and I wish I could remember what show it was, and I can't. I want to say it was something like a 60 Minutes or something like that. And really, it was a white man, older guy, who was very racist and said he did not like black people. And they arranged for a black woman to come spend the day with him. And by the end of the day, he was hugging her in tears, apologizing, and had completely changed his mind because she shared her experience with him. And she spent the day with him, and he got to witness some things. And it's one of those things where you can educate, going back to the human element thing that we were talking about before, like having a human experience, right? So you can sit me in a history class and you can teach me about slavery and you can tell me all these things, all of these horrible situations with the police and all of these things, right? And we almost become, we have become desensitized to it, right? Because you just hear about all this tragedy all the time, almost to the point where you're like, oh, enough already, right? So we're so desensitized to it. But I wonder what it would be like if we really could have you walk a day in my shoes, because I really truly think a lot of it is I don't understand, and that's not an excuse.
No, it's not. It's true,
I'm not saying that gives you a right to turn away and look away and not do anything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that for some people, especially older generations, it's really hard for them to wrap their head around. But let me tell you, why don't you come along with me in the car? Why don't you get pulled over and have all those guns drawn at you because you're sitting in a car with a black man? Now let's talk about it. Because Chris Cuomo said on his show the other night, he said, let me tell you how this is going to change. You have a couple cops treat a couple white men and a couple white boys that way, and the outrage will be so insane and furious that laws will be changing before you can even blink, because that's all it's going to take is for a white person to actually experience, several white people to actually experience that fear, experience that loss. And then you're going to see things, start in motion. I don't want that to happen for anybody. But I'm just wondering how we bridge this gap a little bit more to have someone really understand that experience. I mean, listen, honestly, like I just have a big, like, bleeding heart. So when I hear any of those stories, any situation of any race, of any kind, I'm horrified and upset. I don't understand why people need to walk a day in those shoes. I don't get it. Just be a kind, loving human. But that's just not where we are. So,
you also have to understand how people have been educated.
Right. And that's what I'm saying,
people
too.
Have been educated to believe.
We've been spoon-fed.
A few things. People have been educated to believe, one, that there's not enough to go around. Right. And that somebody must lose.
Right.
People have also been educated to believe that those who have historically lost are now perpetually desperate enough to be dangerous and miscreants in the society. And people have also been trained to believe that if they don't keep up the status quo, this entire thing will come tumbling down and we all lose.
Definitely.
Right? So,
and a million other things too. I mean, we were spoon-fed and brainwashed our education. Lots of things were left out. Lots of things were glorified that shouldn't have been. All of the statues, look around. I mean, it's everywhere. It's just everywhere.
I can literally run you through U.S. history and pull out all of the hypocrisy. I can pull out all the fear-based legislation. I can pull out all the fear-based actions and policies that have targeted specific people. I can pull out all the fear-based legislation that has led to certain people staying in the elite class and everybody else staying in their own zone. I can do that easily. So it's really easy for me to see, but I've also gone after a lot of this information.
Right.
And
which you have to.
Right.
And that's the other thing. You're now asking people to educate themselves on things. They're like, I graduated, I went to school, I learned it all. Yeah. So now you're asking them to relearn things, and they're like, "I'm retired now. I made my money. I don't care."
Right. I'm asking you to repurpose your education. I'm asking the country to repurpose education, and the real problem there is the purpose of education. And I don't even want to call it education. The purpose of teaching, which is actually training, is just to make sure that this system continues forward.
Right. So listen, here's the thing, and again. Like my hippie commune self is coming back out. But listen, all of the things that happened this week, even the verdict being read and how emotional that was, and unfortunately the loss of so many people, I just don't know when enough is enough. Like, I just don't know when, as a human, you can't just stop and go, I just don't want to see this anymore. I just don't understand this. And I just don't. So it's so hard for me to process and understand that. And I just really, truly believe so strongly in leading with love. And I really invite you and encourage you to really tap into your heart and your soul and your spirit and really empathize and sympathize with everyone around you. And really, I mean, life is just so fragile and so short. And I just don't understand why we have to continue to live this nightmare, and why we can't make some progress. So anyway, hug your loved ones, and really, I mean, it's so upsetting and so disappointing, and it's really hard to even put words to it. I don't know.
I agree. I actually want to, and you're going to be mad at me for doing this, but I just, for my own sake, I'd like to apologize to our listeners for just not fully and clearly expressing myself clearly enough on this topic. My emotions really do have my brain running all over the place. There are times where I want to cry. There are times where I want to riot. There are times where I want to educate. There are times where I want to hide under a blanket. There are times where I want to hug my children. There are times where I don't want to leave my home and get in my car. There are times where I just don't want anybody to talk to me, simply because of how I feel as a black man in this country.
First of all, I don't want you
I know
apologizing
I said
for
that, but I just allow it for a second.
Don't apologize ever for that.
I know, just allow it.
I'm allowing
The
it, I'm
reason
just saying.
the reason I'm apologizing is because I think the topic deserves better. I think we deserve a better speech on such topics. I think we deserve more speeches on such topics. I think we deserve more discussions on such topics. And I think it is not only important, I think it's an emergency.
I agree with you there for sure, but I think that this is, an open, free-flowing conversation.
Nonetheless.
And there's so much information, and it's so highly charged in so many different directions that an apology is not necessary. I think, you just speaking and allowing that release is so helpful for other people who can relate or who are learning something new. And I think what you're doing is really amazing and brave to show that vulnerability. So thank you so much for even speaking to it, because I can't even imagine how challenging that must be. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I know that it will not be the last time.
No.
And we will have many more of these conversations as we continue through this journey of wherever it may lead us. But we will continue to have these conversations, because that's really the whole point, right?
Yeah.
We need to have conversations, and
It is.
that's really the key here. Whether good, bad, ugly, there's so much learning to be done, learning, unlearning, relearning to be done. So I just think it's awesome that we're even having the conversation. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we've come to the end of the show. I hate that we have. We always end our show with a quote.
Yes, we do.
Today it's my turn. I typically leave us with a quote that's in my own words, but I'd like to do something a little different. I'd like to first quote Sean King, and then I'd like to read something, and then I guess we're out of here.
Yeah.
Sean King wrote on one of his posts, I think it was yesterday, "Black kids have no room to make dumb mistakes. When they do, they are shot, killed, or sent to jail forever."
Yep.
And I spoke earlier about what it's like to be a black man in this country. And so to all those who would like to join me in the fight against fear, who would like to join me in the fight against traditional racism and segregationism and just elitism, I offer you this piece. The more one understands, the more one can learn, create, build, or destroy. As those weakened by their own beliefs believe there is never enough for all of us, they choose to destroy. Such is a belief rooted in fear. I choose instead to build, create, and learn. I choose love 1,000 times over. I choose love 1,000 times over. Fear is the opposite of love. I live bravely and choose love 1,000 times over. Thank you for joining us. Tune in next time for Beyond the Journal with Erin and Lawrence.
You did it. You did it.
I guess.
Not I guess. You did. You did it.
Oh.